Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dine with the Divine. I'm your host, Ashley, and I'll be your guide today into the mystical, the magical, and everything in between. Today, we're going to be talking about animism, and I never say it, so I apologize, everybody. I'm going to try my best. No, that's not true. I'm going to repeat that. Today, we're going to be talking about animism. I'm going to struggle with it again. And one of our favorite goddesses that we haven't talked about yet. So I hope you are having a fantastic weekend. If not, I hope your weekend's better soon. So today, as usual, we have another absolutely fantastic guest. We have Althea Sebastiani. So Althea is a full-time spirit worker and religious educator who focuses on helping people navigate the realities of deep spiritual practice. Her work primarily takes the forms of spiritual counseling and education framed within the context of animism and witchcraft. She contends that witchcraft is a tool that enables us to see and interact with the world more honestly. She is the author of several books, including By Rust of Nail and Prick of Thorn, and then the book we'll talk about today, which is Alive with Spirits. Also, quick note, everybody, I'm sorry I'm getting over a cold, so sorry about my congestion. Anyway, Althea, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So I pretty much like to start with everybody the same way. How did you get into your journey with witchcraft and your own spirituality?
Ooh, big question, actually. Oh my God. Okay.
We got time. Don't worry about
Yeah. I guess preface this that I'm old. I've got adult children. I've been around for a little bit. And when I first started practicing witchcraft, I did not know that other witches existed. I didn't know it was a thing. I hadn't even heard of Wicca yet. And this was the 90s. Like, this back then. But I was captivated with the word. Like, all through elementary school, like, every year for Halloween, I was a witch. Every single year. Just a little cringe looking back. But I grew up on a farm. I grew up on my grandparents' farm. They have like 100-some acres, and we had cows and animals and things. Yeah, and I just wandered around all the time on my own. I was off in the woods. I was in the barn with the cows. I was in a hay mow with cats. And at some point when I was just outside, I started hearing spirits. I started talking to plants and having them tell me to use them for things that I had no idea because my family weren't into herbalism or anything like that. And I just went with it. And then my dad had a book on folklore and superstitions that I came across. And it was enthralled. And I'm studying it, reading all of these folk tales, and learning rules for interacting with spirits and little tips on protection magic and things like that. And I started implementing things. And then I started hearing spirits in the forest telling me, hey, do this for protection too. And I was getting results. I was curious. I just kept following it. And I ended up putting together this weird little dirty hands and feet child type kind of witchcraft. And like 5-6 years later, I heard of Wicca. It was a few more years later. So it would have been, I think, like maybe 2000. I think I got my first book and I dove in.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
A few years after that, I ended up like deconstructing my practice and going back to being more spirit focused and land focused entirely, and doing a lot of like tossing out of that 90s Wicca influence that was really inescapable, but helpful admittedly at the time. So now we get here somehow.
Okay. I love how, okay, it's interesting. And I think it's definitely dependent on when you grew up too. Or I was born in like the late 80s. So when I always was like, ooh, magic. Like I just thought it was cool. And I just believed
Yeah.
it. But then like when you said you found out about Wicca later on, there's very like limited, there's nothing wrong with Wicca. Let me start right there. Wicca's great. Like for anybody who practices, that's no problem. But it's like, I feel like before when you learned about witchcraft, it was like, it's about Wicca. It has to be Wicca centered. And I remember reading about Wicca and I was like, this is cool. This is not something this is not my cup of tea. Nothing wrong with it. It just wasn't, I didn't feel attracted to it. So I love how you took that and then you ended up like, evolving your practice later on.
Yeah.
Like way more said. That's the cool thing about witchcraft, I think, and different forms of spirituality. You can sometimes make it your own thing. Yeah. You
And
can,
sometimes you just need that something to fill in the gaps and to push you
yeah,
forward so you can find the answers on your own. I know that I was personally stuck and I didn't know what to do because it's an entirely different way of looking at the world and experiencing it. And I couldn't make the connection. But then
yeah.
a couple of books on Wicca and it helped me just fill in that gap and just have more confidence in what I was doing and what I knew to be true too. And that was really huge. So for that influence, I'm always grateful and definitely
Yeah.
count my influences as what they are.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's so true. I remember that was one of the first things is I always say I dip my toe into every religion, like just to tip every religion. I like when I read about Wicca, even though I didn't like subscribe to it, I also was like, wow, a lot of this makes a lot of sense. And this is
Mm.
a lot of this is how a lot of these things that they're talking about is how I look at things too. This is really cool. So then when I started to form my own thing too, it was like, oh, I can take, like you said, you could take from things that you learned. And obviously, a lot of the people, we look at like the people who, Scott Cunningham is like one of the authors that I read like all his books. Like I
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I was like, oh my God, like Scott Cunningham is the coolest person ever. I loved reading all his books and I read every book about herbalism and how to make. I remember this is embarrassing. It's not that embarrassing. It's just silly. I remember there's like a recipe in I think the one that's called brews. I have it in my library somewhere.
Oh,
Um,
gosh.
but it's about brews and different potions you can make. And it was like, ooh, make rose tea and then drink it and it will help you have like lucid dreams or like remember your dreams. I
Mhm.
remember like I didn't really know like that tea was like a leaf at this point. I was like 15. I didn't know that like tea meant like you had to mix it with other stuff, like not just roses. So I took like roses, I dried them out for like a week, and then I drank the tea and it was disgusting. And I was like, oh, Cunningham, how could you betray me? Meanwhile,
Oh,
it's like
goodness.
totally my fault because I had no idea what I was doing. But here I am trying to blame my friend Scott Cunningham. Sorry, Scott. I would never leave you. You're an icon in
I
my life.
love that though, because like the whole adventure into herbalism for so many people is you're like, oh, you're outside. I love plants. They're so great. My favorite color is green. And you like pick something, you're like, I am so earthy. And you put it in
I
your mouth and eat it. And it's like bitter as fuck. And you had no idea. You're like thinking you're immune because it's a witch, but no, it's dandelion leaves. They hate you. They're really bitter the first time.
That's literally like
Oh,
baby witchcraft 101. It just goes, you are connected. You're like, I'm fine. Like,
yeah.
you can't eat grass, guys. It's not okay. I know, like, you think you're immune to it, but like, just
No.
relax. Sorry. I
Oh,
remember when I was a kid, I was like, so first of all, I'm a witch. I know this in my head. Like, it's fine.
yeah.
And I was like, I'm pretty sure I can control the wind. Like, I swore to you, I could control it. I'd sit on like, we lived in like an apartment on the second floor, and I'd sit on the balcony and be like, wind, stop. If it stopped within 5 seconds, I was like, boom goes the dynamite. With tea.
Exactly. I have the power. It's just,
I was like,
oh my
yes,
God.
see? But
I
oh
love
God.
that. It's so funny because when I was a little, one of the first like big spirits that I interacted with, like in a more official way, was like the Slavic wind spirit too. So that's just perfect.
Agree?
Like a little baby, I'm like, hey, can you make it stop raining so I can run out of the house quick, get the mail, and like it'll be dry. And then it would work, and I'd be like, oh yes, I love you.
See, you're like, it's real. I knew it.
Yeah, it's all real.
I
Oh,
love that. It's so funny because I used to do something the same kind of thing. And like sometimes, sometimes things would happen to me and I would know. I'd be like, yeah, that was it. Like, and then other times you don't know. You're like, is this a coincidence? But like, no, it's not a coincidence. This is because they love me. Like these
but you
kids
need
know
that
that.
starting out too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need that. It keeps you going. It boosts that confidence, and then it really prepares you for when everything stops working so easily. You know, when you have to put in the effort, actually.
Right? At first,
Yeah,
everything is so chill and like you just be like spirits and like little things will happen. And then once
yeah.
they like start telling you riddles and stuff, you're like, I thought you guys were on my
Oh,
side. Like,
yeah. And then when the weird stuff starts too, and you're like, oh shit, maybe I should back off a little bit.
they
Yeah,
start asking you to do things. I'm like, wait, you want me to do something? This is crazy.
yeah.
We were just having fun. That's wild.
Yeah. All fun and games until they start making weird requests and moving your shit around your house.
I remember when I started like trying to work with certain spirits, I thought they will. Okay, this is also really silly. I used to go to Barnes and Noble and buy like spell books that were like on the clearance aisle. Like I love that.
And
So
you have to. You're obligated to. The $3
hello,
witchcraft. Yes. I
yes,
also
I
have a
was
shelf
like,
of them.
and I used to be so like, okay, I'm the most lazy spiritual person. I have to be honest. I always joke that like I joke, but I'm serious. My spiritual people up there, they know that like a long ritual, I'm probably not gonna do it. Like, give me something I can do in a day. Like, we'll get it done. And like, I give them offerings. I'm like, you guys know me. I love you so much. I'm just lazy. So they'd have these like spells that were like 9 days long. Do this every day. I'm not gonna do it. I'm so sorry. I'll do it for the first 3 days. I'm gonna forget the fourth day, and then the fifth day I'll be like, "Damn, that's crazy. I actually didn't do anything I was supposed to do yesterday. Oh no!" Like I'm. That's why, like, when it comes to like official spells and stuff, don't rely on me because I don't.
God.
I will forget.
That's still good though. That can still be effective. Even just skipping that day. Sometimes you gotta space things out a little bit. Let it marinate, let it pick up some steam too. Yeah, to mix my metaphors there, but
no, you know what? So what I started doing instead was like, I'll just talk to them every day instead and be like, okay, what do you guys want me to do today? Yeah. Because I'll come back tomorrow. And if you want me, sometimes they'll be like, okay, I just want you to talk to us every day for like a couple days. I'm like, okay, yeah, I could do that.
Perfect.
If I could do however what you want, I'll come. But like, yeah, I'm not one of these people who's like, I always see like I admire people who do like ceremonial magic because I could never. All these big rituals and all these. Oh, yeah. Even people who do even like I'm West African, so like a lot of the like witchcraft and things. So like if you hear like in Santeria, you go to a babalawo, they tell you to get all these things. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of work. They want you to get all these items. I'm like, wow, I don't think so. I think it's not gonna work for me. You have to do something easier. Like,
you need baby steps. Yeah, ease into it. Yeah,
I know. They're like, all right, you're gonna have to go get fresh chicken. I'm like, bro, that's a lot of work. I gotta go to a whole farm for that. This is gonna be crazy. I don't have that kind of time. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So now that we've all talked about how I'm a lazy spiritual person, it's not. We're going to talk about our dish of the week. And because Althea's book, which we're going to talk about a little bit, has a lot to do with like the land and connecting to it and all that kind of stuff, I thought, since this is going to come out later in the summer, let's do like a later summer dish that like it's something that has to do with the lands. One thing, especially if you live in the US, we got a lot of corn. So this is a corn dish. It's sumac and sage corn. So you get 4 to 6 ears of corn and you char them up on your grill or whatever. You want to use your open fire, whatever you like. As the corn cooks, you're going to measure out 1/4 cup of mayonnaise and put it in a medium bowl. And then that 1 tablespoon of sumac and sage seasoning, 2 tablespoons of Alpo pepper, half a tablespoon of granulated garlic. And then you're going to shred 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. And then you're going to add some fresh parsley. Then you're going to, when the corn is done cooking, you're going to slather it with this mixture and top it with the Parmesan and parsley. So, like I said, you can put sorry, everybody, my brain just melted for a second. The dish will be in the show notes if you want to make it super easy. You could also use that like mayonnaise mixture to put it on hamburgers if you're a meat eater and you like to do that. Or you could, if it's not grilling season, you could actually microwave frozen corn and use that same mixture to put it on the corn and have it as like a side dish for whatever. Or use it in a taco combination if you're making tacos, Taco Tuesdays. Okay, so that is our dish of the week. So next we're going to do our tea time. So for today's tea time, we're going to talk a lot about Althea's book because here's the thing, everybody. I was like, we're going to talk about the word I can't say, Animism. But like, it's such a big thing. So I just wanted to go through. It's huge, right?
It's huge. Yeah.
It's everything, literally. It's literally everything. So I was like, we're going to talk a little bit about the book. And so the first thing I'm going to do is just give you the definition of animism. So the definition of this, it comes from the Latin anima, which means breath, spirit, or life. And this is the belief of objects, places, and creatures all possess a distinct spiritual essence. Animism perceives all things, animals, plants, rocks, rivers, water, weather systems, human handiwork, in some case words, as being animated, having agency or free will. Animism is used in anthropology of religion as a term for a belief system of many indigenous peoples, in contrast to the relatively more recent development of organized religions. So think of literally almost every single indigenous religion, pretty much, and all over the world, started this way. There was a belief that the river, either the river was a spirit or the river was represented by a spirit. The moon is represented by a spirit, this kind of thing. And in that, which is a lot of what Althea goes into her book, it connected people to the land. That's why I argue to say that many people who believe this way took really good care of their land, because their land is feeding them. Their land is their spiritual center, and like I said, like physical center too. It's what they use to eat, what they use to survive. I wanted to go through a little. So first, Althea, what inspired you to write this book? Let's start there.
Oh gosh. I think in a few ways it was inevitable. Animism just became this inescapable undercurrent of everything that I was writing. And I had the idea for a book and I wasn't really sure about actually putting one together, and I really resisted at first. But then my students were very interested in more and more about animism, so I ended up writing a few workshops. And eventually I went back to the book idea that I had and swore I wasn't actually going to do, and I cannibalized it and turned it into more workshops, turned it into a course, and then took that and just it became very obvious to me that it was necessary to put the book out, to put something that was wholly focused on animism and explaining it in a broader way than just everything has a spirit, just really connecting it to the fact that it's a worldview and impacts everything about your whole life. And yeah, here it is now.
Yes, I love that. And there's something you say. I'm gonna find it. I have your book right here. There's something you said. I need to lesson 7. I know that. But it's about, okay, so you said, I read it yesterday. Everything is connected. It makes you then more aware of like your actions and like how you're going to go about things also.
Mm-hmm.
If you realize, now obviously your book, it's Alive with Spirits, the path and practice of animistic witchcraft. So obviously this is doing craft and dealing with the land and your world. But when you do craft and do magic, which some people argue is like manipulating energy, basically, right? But when you do that and you look at the world this way, knowing that everything is connected, you do it in a way that is more like conscious. It's not just like, I'm going to do this today, like for whatever silly reason. You do it for a bigger reason. You know what I mean? Does that make sense to you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you're not just doing this like a spell for some reason and like hoping that it's going to have an effect that you see here in the physical world, but it's recognizing that you as a person aren't just physical body, but are a spirit body also, that the world around you isn't just the physical world, but there's a spirit world layered on top of that. There is energy moving about and affecting everything, that there are other spirits that some you'll see, some you'll never see because they avoid you. And knowing that just like your physical actions impact other living humans, that impact the plants, impact animals, there are actions that you take spiritually that impact everything around you too, especially within that close proximity, but then it ripples outward. So it's just having that greater consciousness that all of your actions have an impact on the world around you. Just like those physical actions or spiritual actions do impact other people too. Maybe not human people, maybe not even living human people, but they do have an impact. And so with that greater consciousness and awareness of the power of your actions, there's also greater consideration for the people around you. It really helps you to decenter yourself and think about like, okay, am I being a good neighbor to the humans around me? Being a good neighbor to the spirit people around me? And just really putting in that extra thought about how you exist in this web of relationship that includes more than just living humans. And I think that's a really great part.
So when I was reading that was like my first thing that, oh my God, like I love that you're putting that out there, that people can think that way. Like, you know what I mean? Realize that everything you're doing is affecting, and you make such a good point, not just your physical world around you and everything around you, but actually like in the spiritual plane too. And
yeah,
I think a way that a lot of people are seeing that now too is because there's a lot of talk and people are talking a lot about like ancestral healing, ancestral ties.
Yeah, that's
And
a huge part of my work too. Yeah.
Yes, because I was reading your website. I saw that you do a lot of work with that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that makes so much sense that it's so tied into this too, because like when because like, first of all, we all know now that a lot of the things that happen to our ancestors end up trickling down through our DNA. This is what we do, or this is okay to do. And like, it goes down through the whole family line, even with all different things. It just flows through the emotions, even like people like, so if you always think like something like, oh, you know, so-and-so, they're hot-tempered because their dad was hot-tempered. Like, you can obviously make a physical choice to not be angry. Like, you don't have to be mad. But if all you saw was that it was your whole life, and then your father only saw that their whole life, and then his mother only saw, it comes down the line. So we know it in that way, but also now we know with ancestral healing, we can also affect our ancestors and help them be at peace, right? And we can also help our descendants, as we are going to one be ancestors. So us changing our lives now affect our offspring, or whether it's nieces and nephews or students or whoever you are going to affect in your life down the line. So I just love that you talked about that, because I think that we live in a very individualistic society sometimes, that people just think, oh, like, this is what, and again, there's a lot of good things about it, and there's things about it that could be tweaked, but people are like, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to do it, which is good. People having agency is not bad, but it's also like, sometimes you have to realize, hey, like, what I say and what I do can sometimes affect other people in the long run.
Yeah, regardless of intention too, there can be that impact.
Yes, that's so important too. Just because, look, most people are decent people. Most people aren't out to be assholes, I think. At least, like, there's some people
some people will make you wonder, but yeah, for the most
like,
part.
Wow, you're really rude and you have no home training. I don't know why you talk to people like that. But like, I had to have an encounter with somebody like that today, who I want to be like, wow, who raised you? That's crazy. I think most people are just trying their best, right? Like, just trying to get through the day. But so sometimes we want to do things, we want to say things, and we really do mean well, but we don't think of how it's going to affect other people, or what works, how we're saying is other people might take. Sometimes I used to be this person, and I'm sorry to everybody in my past. I'm just being honest. Like, I was being bitchy. Like, me being honest is not the most important thing. Sometimes I have to be kind. I can't just be, not that I'm a nasty person, but sometimes I would want to be honest because that was what I thought was right. Meanwhile, I'm hurting people's feelings. That's not cool.
Yeah.
Like, you know what
a little
I mean?
too unfiltered.
Yeah, it was like, I had to learn, getting older, that like, you can be honest, but there's a way to speak to people sometimes.
Yeah.
You can tame your honesty a little bit. It's better for everybody. But yes, that was a really cool thing that I love that you talked about. Let's see. You talked about a lot of things, and it's not only
I did.
You talked about tons of stuff.
It's a lot crammed in that book.
It is. When I was like, oh, this is a cute book, and then I started like, damn, this is heavy. Like, we've got heavy.
I know, right? Like, you're like, oh, nice book. Gonna blow through this tonight. It's a good weekend read. And then you're like, chapter 1. No.
Yeah, I know. I was like, is she even dead? She's not practicing. Have homework. Like, damn, that's crazy. I love it.
Yeah. Gonna help you change things, help you change your worldview, help you change your practice. It's
Yes,
good.
it really does. And I love how, the other thing I like that you said was people getting to know their land and their local spirits, like what's around them is really
Yeah.
important. I find that like that's another thing I think sometimes, and I've talked about this a couple times with different people too, about like being okay. Let's talk about the basic being like witchy is cool, and like getting into magic is super cool. But there's so one reason I really like this book. There's so many things that will help you get to where you want to go with it. Like instead of just being like, now I have an altar and I put like wind, water, earth. It's great. We're good. I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a witch. It's like this book is a really good like base for everything. Like if you really want to start, you want to like deepen your practice. Say you're doing like we talked about earlier. You're doing the fun part. Everything's super fun. Everything's working. You're like, oh my God, it's so crazy. Like, oh my God, they're talking to me. But then a lot of the time, like you said, you hit a wall. Like, because you're like, ooh, like I'm not growing within this. It's not like fun anymore. Like,
it feels like something's missing. Yeah.
Yes, it feels like something's missing. Usually, when you hit that wall, and you could tell me how you feel about it too, Althea, like it means that you have to go like deeper. You know, you have to dig a little bit because they're trying to get something out of you usually, and it's like you just don't know it yet. You haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. You got to do something that makes it start changing you, that witchcraft gets inside of you and starts changing you and really making you be a witch instead of someone that just does witchcraft on the weekends or something, or when you've got time. Yeah.
Yes, because you start to like, I think when I started kind of feeling those things, now I feel it all the time and I think it's become so natural. But like before I'd go outside and I'd be like, wind, like the grass. like, when you start really realizing that like everything around you is moving and vibrating and like this is all, and like that's how you can manipulate energy is because you're almost aware of it and you're like really focused in on it. You're like, okay, I get it. You start appreciating the world around you more, and you also stop, and I think you start decentering yourself from your practice, and like you said, like we were talking about before, you realize you are part of this big wide world. Like
it's just you're not alone.
You're not alone, and it's not just about you and like how you want to do it and how you think this is gonna work. Like you are part of this big maze of stuff, and once you become aware of that, you start to move different in the world. And
exactly. Yeah,
it's just it's so cool.
Once you let it just get inside of you, it really changes everything. And I don't know if you can go back from that. It's definitely easier to keep going forward, as much of a challenge that can be and as much as it can be really difficult at times. But I don't know about going back from it. Like once you see how much more there is to the whole world, to just life, to the human existence, like everything's so much bigger, just so much bigger.
It's massive. It's like, I my friend said this one time. We were talking about just like our spiritual world, and we were just saying like, what was it like before we knew all this? Like we don't like we were bored. Like I guess we were mad bored. Like what were we doing? That's crazy.
Go with this,
Oh, you talked about being in community, which I really like that you talk about. And that is, to me, like respecting the land around you, respecting where you live. Even being in community also is almost like, okay, again, Scott Cunningham. I remember reading his book and going to go find some mugwort. One of the things he's always like, oh, if you go to cut your herbs, don't cut more than like a fourth of the herbs in that area because you want to like you want to respect the land. You're not going to take everything. Don't be greedy. You probably don't need everything anyway. But that's
Yeah.
part of being in community and respecting your land.
Yeah. Not hoarding resources and taking everything for yourself. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, once you decenter yourself and you realize, like,
Mhm.
oh, we're all part of this big game.
Yeah. And then you can start seeing too how just this little thing like in your witchcraft practice can apply to your whole damn life too, and how you're
Yes.
interacting with your neighbors, with your coworkers, with your family member, your extended family. It becomes this huge rippling thing. Yeah.
I felt like when I started like a spiritual practice, it gave me a lot more empathy for people. Like,
Yeah. It's
because
easier to be compassionate. Yeah.
it really is, because when you realize, number one, like you said, you are really part of this thing, and when somebody does something, you look at them like you want to look at yourself, and you also look at them the way you want people to look at you. Like, okay, like my new thing lately has been like giving people grace. Obviously, it does not apply in every situation, but like sometimes you're like, I'm just gonna give you grace, because you realize when you really think back, you're like, I know this person, I know how they're acting, I know their history, and then I realize why they're. I really think through things before I start going off on people or started like really highly judging them. I'm like, okay, this person has been through this, and this is why they're reacting this way. And hey, if it's not okay, it's still not okay. It doesn't mean you have to forgive people. But sometimes you're like, I'm just gonna move this energy somewhere else because I can't do this. And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And sometimes just being a bitch back isn't the best for that scenario for either party too. Sometimes you want to tell somebody off, but it's not the best thing for you to do. It doesn't help things.
Exactly. Yeah. And when you realize you're part of it, you're like, okay, obviously I did not cause this issue, but
Exactly.
I'm gonna try to better. This is how I think of it. Sometimes I'm like, I'm gonna try to better this person's life. They don't know I'm doing them a favor. I'm gonna try to better your life by not going off on you right now, because I could. Well, I'm gonna give you grace. I'm gonna give, and it's so funny because a lot of the things that like major religions people will say about like witchcraft, it's like witchcraft is like everybody's very chill. Like, first of all, it's not like an organized thing, so you could do what you want. But like, this is the core of it. It's just like respect the land, be nice when you can, be cool about shit. Like,
just don't be self-centered and think of others. So they take
and they're like, get over there, and you're like, wait. Like, oh, don't like take everything from one area. Maybe that's not good. Maybe like commune with your land, respect it, appreciate what you got. They're like, murder the snake. Okay. Crazy. Let's see. I think that's the major things. But I just wanted to tell everybody, I just want to read, show everybody the different lessons in this book. The one thing about the book that I like is there's works, like there's little exercises on each lesson that you could do. Althea does a very good job of writing everything out.
I like the words.
Yeah. You will not be confused. That's a problem. No, not a problem. That's the best part about it. You won't be confused. She explains everything. It's not too like highfalutin where you'll be like, oh, these are a lot of like words that I don't understand. No, if there's a word that's big, eventually you'll figure it out because she explains it. I love it. Don't worry. So just so everybody knows, some of the lessons we have in this book is witchcraft and worldview. Witchcraft comes from the land, which, hello, if you don't know that, you got to start again. A world alive with spirits, being in community, the layered witch, the layered world, looking at these different, the afterlife, or whichever you like to call it, walking between worlds she talks about. I like that. Communication, interaction, and manners. Hallelujah. I love something when we talk about manners, because some people don't know. And then the witch within the world. So how to move her. Oh, this is another one. This is the last lesson. I want to talk about this for a second. Look, I'm going to tell you guys my gripe real quick. I love a spiritual person. I love a spiritual healer. But guys, when we walk around the world and we want to be spiritual, sometimes you got to ground yourself and you got to chill out. There's people who are just like, I just walk around like this all day. No, you don't. Calm down. You go to the grocery store just like I do. And that's also like, I find a lot of time like ego working when people are just like, well, and it leads to people be like, I'm just more spiritual than you because like I just walked around like connected. I can't walk around all day listening to spirits. I won't get anything done. We have times and places when we chit chat. If I'm just like at work, I can't, like, we have to like table this conversation. Sometimes they do be trying to tell me stuff at work. They're like, hey girl. I'm like, hey, oh my God. Hey, like, hey, what's up? Can you guys come back to me at like 5:30? I'll be home. We can chit chat. They're like, oh, okay, no problem, girl. Love you. I'm like, love you too.
That's great.
Sometimes I remember one time I was like in the bathroom and all of a sudden I heard something else like, oh
God. Honestly, there is something about bathrooms. I've made the joke before about how they're just these sensory void chambers because you get in there, it's super private, it's super quiet, you relax, and then suddenly you like, someone's like, hey, how's it going? I wonder if you're busy right now. Can we talk?
You're like, I mean,
it does not fail. It does not fail.
You know what's so funny? I love reading about jinn, like genies, and they love bathrooms. That's like one of their favorite spots. So, all this lore about genies, and they're like, and then they were in the bathroom. They're either in the middle of the desert in somebody's bathroom. That's like where they love to be, or by a garbage can. So that's cool. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, what's the connection here?
I don't know. One day I'm gonna do. I just want to like spend 3 days talking about genies because jinn are the craziest thing ever. I love them. I'm obsessed about them. Jinn and fairies, they're actually out of control, and someone needs to talk to them. They'll just fuck up your whole life and be like, ha ha. It's like, no.
Yeah. There's definitely layers of spirit involvement that you want to ease into. And they're on that end it's good to leave them on that end, just over there.
Talk about it because sometimes everybody want to get involved in everything. Everything's not your business. Stay out of it.
No, it's really not. There is some stuff that you need to have a foundation built. You need to know how to cover your ass. You need to know how to clean up after they come in and fuck everything up because they will. Like, I have unfortunately said too often that if you show your bare ass to some spirits, they are gonna spank it. Like, it's gonna happen. You have to you have to have that grounding. You have to know how to protect yourself and clean things up. It's just, no.
That's like
so sorry.
Oh my God, that's so funny. But it's facts. Like,
yeah, it's true. You see it over and over again.
Yes, like, especially with them, like little spirits like fairies and jinn and these little like guys who, I always say, they don't have allegiance to nobody except themselves. That's why you got to be extra scared of them. A lot of these other deities, they have like hierarchies. It's usually a sky dude. That's always the one who's in charge 90% of the time. It's always a man. It's always in the sky. Like, okay.
Yeah. It's a little suspicious sometimes.
It is.
What's up with that?
Who said that? And then his wife is the earth. And it's just, and this is what we're doing every time. Whatever. We'll fix it later. But at the same time, all your deities, it's all going to go fuck some human's life up. And you're like, oh, okay. They're just messy. And this, like, that's why I like them. That's why I like fairies and jinn, because I can also relate. I like, sometimes I want to be messy. Like, I want to hear mass. I'm not like a magical being, but sometimes like, I want to get into it. Like, that's why I go on TikTok, because I want to hear somebody else's mass.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, good times. Okay. So since we were talking about land and we're talking about witchcraft and magic, I was like, what are we going to talk about today? I'm going to tell a story, but I couldn't find a story that I really loved. So I was like, we're going to talk about a deity today because why not? Let's do it. So we're going to talk about a girl. Everybody has probably heard of Artemis, right? Artemis is this fairy, not fairy, but she's usually in charge of fairies, depending on which folklore you're reading. Sometimes she's in charge of fairies, but she's like a big forest deity. They do believe that in some ancient indigenous cultures, like of Greece, that she may have actually been like a bear goddess. But then when she was absorbed into like Olympian Greek deity society here, she became the daughter of Zeus, my least favorite Greek deity, as I have ranted about Zeus many times on this podcast, how he pisses me off. And somebody named Leto. Leto and Zeus had a baby, probably because Zeus was out here doing the most as usual. And it was Artemis. Artemis is great. So we love that from her. The first thing Artemis did was she came out of her mama, and then her mom was like, oh, there's another baby in here. And Artemis, being a baby that was like 2 minutes old, she's like, hold up, don't worry, I'm a midwife. Don't know how that happened. She's like, I'm going to help you give birth to this baby.
Yeah, she came prepared.
I know, like, what?
The ultimate eldest daughter.
I know. Seriously. She's like, I'm going to have to do everything anyway. Let me just start now. Jeez. I love Artemis. So she's like, fine, let's just do this. It was a long, difficult labor. But then her brother Apollo, he came out, and she was like, what took you so long? She's like, I was out here taking my first breath, helping mom. This is actually out of control. Just like a brother. Just like a brother to be disrespectful and make his sister do everything. I don't even have brothers, but I hear so much. People like, my brother got away with everything, and I was the big sister. I was like, just sound like Apollo. Be rude. So they're twins, if you didn't figure that. He is like her alter ego. He's a spirit of like masculinity in the sun, and she's more like femininity in the moon. That's usually the correlation that people make. So she's a super good friend also of our friend Persephone, who we also love. We stand for Persephone. Even though she was kidnapped, that was crazy. But like, she seemed like everything turned out well. She got Hecate out there, and she was like, I'm fine. Like, okay.
Yeah, she became a queen, so yeah, hard to too much.
Exactly. And Hades is generally pretty quiet. So she's like, whatever. I got to be my own realm. I got mad friends. Like, it's not a problem. My mom
got a dog. Everything's good.
I have a 3-headed dog. It's actually not so bad down here. There's a grumpy boatman I have to deal with once in a while, but it's okay.
Right? Waterfront property. They're right by the river. It's good.
She gets to meet new people every day. It's like every day is a new adventure. I get to like take people around and like help them with a tour, and then I get to decide who goes where. It's great. Yeah. I love Persephone. So Artemis had her biggest wish when she was probably 2 seconds old, because she was also helping people give birth. She also was like, Papa, I wish to never be married. And he was like, okay. She never had to get married, which is great, because she wasn't in the mood. She's super autonomous, independent. She does her own thing. And a lot of times, there's like this big emphasis on her being like chaste or being a virgin. But she's literally just a virgin because she feels like it's not that big of a deal. And a lot of her temple rituals that like people used to do were erotic dances and masquerades by men, women. Everybody was out here doing whatever they wanted and like being super sexy. So like, she's not like she has a problem with it. She's just like, I don't want to be forced to marry nobody, which like, there, girl. She said, I want to stay out in the streets. And there's no problem with that. Stay there, girl. It's a hot girl summer every time. Like, she loved it. Oh, so one thing that I read that was cool was the emphasis on her chastity may have been back to like when they think she was like maybe a bear, because a lot of the time hunters wouldn't have sex before they went on a hunt, because I guess they thought it made them, I guess they were like, we're more clear-headed instead of thinking about like genitals and tits or whatever they were thinking about. I don't know. Instead they were focused. So she is the mistress of the hunt. She protects the forest and most all wilderness from excessive human encroachment. So people over hunting and things like that. And she is also like the regulator of sacred hunting rituals. She also is the goddess of like fertility in some places, but also botanical fertility. So making things grow. She also sometimes regulates menstrual cycles. So if you've got any issues with your cycle, friend, just call her up. She might be able to help. She presides over different types of sexual energy, like I said. She's loved. A lot of people love her, and a lot of people are also scared of her. Her name also may come from the word Artemis, which means slaughterer or butcher. She can also take the lives of animals as well as preserve them. She was the last Greek deity to reject human sacrifices. So she was like down with the sacrifice. Like, okay, girl, we'll see what time you're on. Okay, so she grants, like I said, she grants fertility to people who can't conceive, but she also decides what animals and people get to survive childbirth. So sometimes she decides who lives or dies. She can also bestow or withhold health from people. And she also, oh, here we go. We were talking about fairies before. She can also undo mischief caused by nymphs or near Nereids are like male nymphs. She can also be petitioned for a swift and quick death. Her veneration of her was never totally suppressed, but she's not as close. Okay, so you know how like Roman and Greek gods are usually the same? So her Roman counterpart is Diana, but Diana is like slightly meaner than Artemis. If you read a lot of stuff about Diana, she's mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, she wasn't like a fan of people. And don't let you like worship her and then get in trouble and like something happened to you, because then she's like banishing you to deserts and stuff. Like Diana was doing, like she was on that type of time. She wasn't playing around. Artemis was a little chiller than Diana. Yeah, maybe she took some human sacrifices, but she was still a little chiller. Apparently, she's still wandering the forest, so you might see her if you're in Greece and you're in the forest. Be careful. She might be out there. She's also chilling with a bunch of nymphs, so just have fun. People that she loves. She loves women, lesbians, sailors, Amazons, the Amazons, or like Amazonian women, tall, tall people who identify as women. She's talking to you. She loves you. Athletes. She loves runners, swimmers, and archers. She is super magical. So she's got all the magic if you need it. She's usually seen as like a younger woman who's like super good shape. And sometimes she wears like the headdress of like a stag. She has usually silver bows and arrows and a shield. She loves the colors white and silver. Her favorite place is Arcadia, the Arcadia region of Greece, and the island of Leros, in a place that I can't pronounce, is sacred to her, and so is Delos, and this is the site of where she was born and her brother. She usually hangs out, like I said, in wild groves and forests, and she's associated with freshwater, lakes, marshes, springs, streams, and spirits. And what I like here from this, okay, there is a little quote here. I'm reading from the Encyclopedia of Spirits, which I love. A Greek proverb asks, where has Artemis not danced? A static, sometimes erotic dance was centered to her right. She is also a shamanic spirit, so perhaps it is safe to venture that dance involving ritual possession was like part of her thing. Drugs have been found in many of her shrines, and there's like they think that a lot of the precursor to modern belly dancing was like a dance for Artemis, which is pretty neat. She also has a chariot that's drawn by stags. She doesn't she never had to get married, which was awesome. Her cousin is our girl Hecate. That's why this is my thing. I think that her, Hecate, and Persephone have like girls' night. I think they can like hang out like a couple, like maybe like once a month they get together. Usually at Persephone's place. Like she invites everybody down there.
She's got the room for it, you know?
Yeah, because she's they like just chill. Like maybe they have like a little wine, maybe they don't. I feel like Artemis is probably like she's not even drinking. I feel like she's a mocktail kind of girl. I just feel it. She has a cool like herbal like concoction that she likes to drink, and it tastes probably better than the wine. And they just talk like about how they have to fix everybody's problems. They're stressed. I love it. If you want to make an offering to her, there are these like honey cakes that they used to make. But also, if you make an offering to nature, something that is obviously can be taken in by nature, something biodegradable, or even something that I thought I was like, if you made like a donation to like a sanctuary, that could be an offering also to Artemis because you're helping the earth or you're helping animals. That's a good way to make an offering to her if you love Artemis. I just like Artemis because she's out here just doing, first of all, she's doing whatever she feels like doing. Nobody's stopping her. No one can keep her down.
As if they could.
If someone could. She's just out in the woods just running around and she doesn't care. And that's why I've always loved Artemis. It's like, I was like, man, if I was like into the Greek pantheon, Artemis would be my girl. Like, she's just so cool. She's just out here running around, being magical and telling nymphs to calm down all the time. She's like, you guys are doing a lot. Whenever the nymphs get too unruly, she has to go and be like, you guys, I know you were in the mood to mess the humans up today, but they're having a rough day. Remember, they don't have magical powers. They're like, yeah, I'm sorry, Artemis.
She and her girls were having parties all the time too, because they were known to always be singing and dancing with choral songs too, and leaping dances. So yeah, she's out there having a good time.
Yes, I know. Can you imagine just like Artemis, like follower, and they probably were just all in the woods, just a bunch of people in the woods hanging out. What else do you want? It's awesome. Sorry. Okay. So that's what we talked about today. We talked about Artemis. That's our story time for today. So that brings us to the end of the show. Althea, this was so fun. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Now, where would you like people to find you on the internet if they're interested in your work?
Oh, definitely my website. It's ladyalthea.com. I'm on social media as at Lady Althea too. I guess I'm pretty much active on Instagram the most at this point since the one app went belly up. One we won't name, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So all of the links to Althea's work and her social media will be in the show notes if you guys want to check it out. I recommend you do. And again, I definitely recommend if you are at a point where you feel like you want to go deeper with your practice and you want to get to, and maybe you don't know how to do that. Maybe you're like, I want to work with this one deity. I feel like sometimes people only think like deity work is the only way to do it. No, there's like so many ways to do it. And this book really leads you like into a good place and how you can connect with everything around you. And then then you can build from there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's really good. I really recommend it to everybody. There's exercises. She's not just telling you what to do and leaving you with the work. She's giving you things that you could do, things you could work on, things you could journal. You can have journal prompts in there.
And then when you do the exercises too, you'll have your own experiences so you can compare those against what I wrote, and then you can see if you want to believe me or not and trust that. So you don't have to just go in from the start and be like, oh, trusting me. Don't take it on faith. Prove it for yourself. Do the work and have the experiences.
And then when you have your own experiences and realize that Althea's experience, maybe they weren't exactly the same, but you can relate to them. Be like, she was right. I enjoy this. Now I'm going to build my own practice from here. Yay, now you're a real witch. It's like, it all worked out. Oh, God. So like I said, everything will be in the show notes if you guys want to check it out. Link to the book will be in the show notes. Yeah, this is Dine with the Divine. You can find us on Facebook, Threads, Instagram. I know sometimes I don't post a lot. I'm trying my best because it's hard out here. All the social media, if you have time, please give us a rating and a review. I would really appreciate it. And if you want to follow me, Ashley, I'm Sankofahs. That's Sankofahs. And I'm on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and Sankofahs Healing Sanctuary. Okay, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.